Participation from the public tonight.
It's got 3 minutes.
Trying to see more agendas up here.
I looked at them.
We went to another meeting, just, I think that's like, we're all the same age, Sharon, but Jeff, you and I are half the same age.
I told you, I looked in the mirror the other day and I was just wondering who that person was.
Did you talk?
Yeah, I did. I wasn't able to.
You're not who I remember.
Too much information.
But we're still on the. Oh, we're not on the.
It's funny.
Quest. Bust out the old school one, plugs it in cigarette lighter.
Talking about the old garments? I still have one of those.
I still have one.
It's like Civic Center Council.
I don't know.
Yeah, I still have it.
Good sound, just, Dad, can you hear us? I don't think we're hearing that. Can you say something to him?
Ed, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
So it shows on the navigation, we driving right up.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Mark, he said, hold on a couple.
Hey, to this point in the week, it'll have to do one. I may have missed nap time. Okay, it's called a meeting to order. Pledge.
Flag. Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Mr. Moreno.
Here.
Mr. Datley.
Here.
Mr. Harney.
Here.
Mr. Thorne.
Here.
Mr. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Nimitz.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. President. Okay, we've got a quorum, we've got a meeting, and according to the gubernatorial proclamation, we are allowed to once again to have remote access for this meeting. While we have 2 trustees attending remote, 4 trustees attending in person. The requirements for the meeting tonight will be that all votes will be by roll call. And we proceed from there. Okay, minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes of March 7th, 2022.
So moved, Diatley.
Second, Thorne.
Moved by Diatley, second by Thorne. Are there any corrections to the minutes of March 7th?
I have one. Apparently, I sent out an incorrect version of what was some poorly timed humor at the expense of one of our trustees. Rest assured that the report now reads, no report. by that trustee, but with that correction and that change, the minutes are as presented.
Okay, John, I'm seeing a sign says we're signed out.
Oh, shoot. We have to go through that again.
Ed, did you hear the comments from the clerk?
Yes, I did hear the comments from the clerk.
Okay, he was afraid he had to read them a second time. Okay, there's no corrections to the minutes as read. Roll call, please.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Moreno,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Harney.
Aye.
6 affirmative votes and no negative votes. Motion so passes. Thank you, gentlemen. The next report is mine, President's report, and this evening, I would like to appoint another member to the Finance Committee. Kelly Thomas has offered to. So I would entertain a motion and a second for confirming the appointment of Kelly to the Finance Committee.
I'll second.
We have
So moved, yeah.
Okay, moved by Dattley, seconded by Hoffman, to approve the appointment of Kelly Thomas to the Finance Committee. Any comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Moreno,
Aye.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne.
Aye.
6 affirmative votes and no negative votes. The motion so passes. Thank you, gentlemen. That is it for the President's report, clerk report.
I have no report tonight.
Thank you, Johnny. Planning and zoning, we have no report this evening. Attorney, we have no report this evening. Engineer, the engineer and the director of public works and I met this morning along with Eugene, the director of finance, to discuss the possible 2023 road program. At the next meeting in April, I believe you will see a proposal from the engineers that will be about $400,000 in road repairs. Yes, it raises an eyebrow. It's a little more than we normally spent in the past. But if you recall, the last 2 years, we restricted road work to save money for Sleepy Hollow Road. Sleepy Hollow Road is now finished. There has been a little bit of surplus of funds left from that project, and they will be used on the road program this year. So that's where we're going to be getting up to almost a $400,000 road, street program this year. So that's it for the engineer, finance.
I request approval of the warrants in the amount of $111,702.81.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, Harney.
Moved by Hoffman, seconded by Harney to approve the warrants of March 21st, 2022 in the amount of $111,702.81. Any addition, deletion, comment, discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
6 affirmative votes and no negative votes. The motion still passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, Eugene. Comments from the public? Okay, first on the list this evening, Mr. English.
Actually, it's a question. The Service Club on our spring cleanup is planning on pressure washing the pavilion and the gazebo. But we need the fountain turned back on. Is there a date projected when the drinking fountain will be turned back on so we can have water?
Tomorrow.
We don't need this. Okay. Thank you.
We can take care of that one real quick. Thank you. You're in for, you have to go. Okay, Kelly?
I've got a couple of things. One thing is the storage units that were brought up by the guy that was here a couple weeks ago. I've got some concerns about that since we're all concerned about the aesthetics. I know the board is for Sleepy Hollow. I've been involved and used some of these storage units for work purposes and seeing what's happened with them after a few years. And I know that the gentleman had mentioned that after a certain time that they would, you know, if somebody's still in them, they'll call or whatever. And, you know, I think that's added pressure on the police department to have to, you know, or whoever is gonna control that. And I don't think it's something that we as a village board and citizens want to be a business. And I think there's better options to bring income into the village and for that property. So that's just talked with people, and that's my concern. The other is a personal one. 3 years ago, we had our driveway done, and the board or that lady.
Barb.
Yeah, that
Barb.
lady, Barb. She, they made them build the driveway up and put the larger drainage pipes in lower than the swale. So now it floods and the water sits. And I was here a few years ago and someone came out from a group and said, that was for new build. Well, if you look at where I live up on Jill Peak, the house has been there for, you know, since 1960. And then the other houses that were having driveways done on different cul-de-sacs I drove around, they had the bigger pipes and then they let them put the smaller pipes in and the lower driveway. Ours is now up and it's, you know, it's so, and they said they were gonna come and look at it. All that needs to be done is that swale dug out, because now you have the pipe down here and the swale up here. So,
Swale is your responsibility.
well, I was told it was the village's responsibility.
Village
time I was
owns,
told-
village owns the swale.
So I can dig it up.
But
because
you
I
can
was
dig
told
it
I was told I could not dig it up.
You can dig it up. You are responsible for maintaining.
Got it, because that's a different answer than we got when we first came here and everybody came out to look at it. It is it's
I
a
would
little different
tell you-
answer.
Check with Kyle to be sure that the grade is done properly. If you go by my yard now, you will see my driveway is all torn up. I have to redo the swale. Those are
Okay,
mine.
because they told us that we could not do it because it was village property.
Yeah, well, you can do it. It is village property. Let us know what you're doing.
All I want
That's
to
all
do
I
is dig
want.
it so it so it's not like this, that it's like this.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Jennifer McGuire.
That's me. I've been a resident since 1991, on and off, minus a couple of years going to college. I've resided at 913 Surrey, 219 Sharon Drive. Recently purchased the house with Shane here at 700 Jaclay. Purchased the house at 700 Jaclay because we have primary custody of 5 children. We moved from Sharon Drive because we wanted to be closer to the park and the lake. Couple issues, speeding by the park. We talked to you, Mr. Pickett, back in, I think it was November, October, something like that. About lowering the speed limit in front of the park to 20. Has not been lowered yet, so we'd like to see that possibly lowered here. Didn't get approved. How,
Warrants.
pardon?
We have to meet state warrants to change such speed limits.
Well,
And
what
if it
takes the warrant to
doesn't
do that?
make-
What takes the warrant to do that?
It takes a traffic study. It takes justification on the village's side to do it. We are not a home rule community.
So if we get IDOT in here to do a traffic study, we can possibly get that lowered.
Possibly.
Okay, so we'll work on IDOT, right? Okay. Next issue is the lake. There's 18 feet of quicksand in the lake. I have 5 children living on the lake, let alone it's across the street from the park. Do we have anything put in place to make this lake safe? Animals get stuck in it, person has got stuck in it. What do we do if somebody, the lake is not fenced off? What do we do if somebody falls in the lake?
911.
911 does not
911.
save children. 911 takes too long to get somebody there. The
Call
lake,
911 and then move.
I grew up here. That lake was safe. We used to ice skate on that lake. We used to fish in that lake. There's not even fish in the lake anymore. Whose job is it to maintain the lake?
It's part of village property.
Okay, so what's the village gonna do to make this lake safe? And it's,
We'll close it down. We can, oh, ma'am, seriously, we don't have the money. We were a group came in here about a year ago, offered to bring tons of money to the village to redo that lake. We've not seen them since.
what was the group?
It was residents. They've got some dam lock thing rigged up that they think would resolve the issues of the level of that lake. We don't have the money for the village to contend with that lake,
It's
ma'am.
not an acceptable answer.
Well, I'm sorry. You want to change places?
I would love to change places with you any day.
Right now. Yeah, seriously.
I would love to change places with you any day. Yes.
Seriously.
If you want to step down, I will step up next week. Yeah, any day.
Did you take out a petition?
Stephanie, can I respond in a way anyway?
I prefer not to. We've gotten this off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm sorry, we just don't have the money for that.
How do we come up with it?
I
You
can
can't
ask
sit here and
Ranger
tell, I
Clark.
paid $27,000 in taxes last year. You can't tell me I'm SOL.
Yes, I can, ma'am, because that $27,000 that you paid in property tax did not come to us. I don't think we probably saw $2,000 of that.
If you look on your tax bill, it tells you.
I have,
Look
for
at
both houses that I owned in
Yeah.
2021, I have. And you're right, not much goes to there.
Right, and that's what we have
And
to
that's what
to
we
pay
have to
for
do.
salaries and maintaining the roads and everything. And there's just not a lot of money there.
We've got a stick and a spoon. The spoon is bent and the stick is broken.
It's just not acceptable, then we should figure out a way to get it to happen.
Come on up,
You got it,
come on up.
you got it, I'll be running.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Ian Marcus? Yes, Ian?
I was just wondering if, we saw the signs that were put up, we appreciate that for the pedestrians, but we were wondering what are the other signs that were ordered? Were there, because I was told on Halloween that there were a bunch of different kinds of signs. So,
We have ordered different kinds of signs. I've also reached out to West Dundee and Joe Cavallero because they own the bike pass
okay,
that come into Locust. And the West Dundee was going to try to do something in the fall. They did not get that done. I reached out to Mr. Cavallero again with another email and followed it up with a phone call message just the other day, and I have not heard back from him yet on what they're going to do there. I had sent pictures to him with several different ideas of cutting vegetation back along there so they can see better, putting more posts across the actual path where it comes into the road. So we can hopefully slow people down there as well from coming into there. But I have not heard back from West Dundee on that. Like I said, I did follow up with him this week, but I still have not heard back. So I will double check with him again on that.
so what were the signs, other than the ones that have been posted?
I saw one picture of the one that was posted. We have speed signs, we have different children at play, pedestrians. I would have to go look. I did not personally look at the signs that Kyle got in.
One of the concerns is the weight, when you have heavy trucks going down that street with that bridge there, I'm just curious if that's a hazard.
We do have weight limit signs.
Or currently because of the road. But
Yeah.
that's a temporary road ban for spring, for the freeze thaw cycle.
Yeah,
So yeah, that'll be a temporary road ban.
okay. And my other concern was just the volume of cars going down there. I mean, I brought this up back in October, but I mean, is there anything that we could do when that road is redone? When Locust is redone, I'm not sure when that's gonna happen. I know now we have the funding,
We're looking at 2 years.
2 years. Wow,
We got water and drainage and sewer that has to be done first.
Okay,
I'd assume do that first, then do the road.
right. Is there any way we could get a double yellow line down the middle of that road?
Whoa.
A lot of people
I
passing
don't-
people.
From a police standpoint, it would be
unenforceable. Excuse me, was that Joe or,
It was Joe. Jeff Steele and I have been, and Kyle and the board, we've been talking about this. I look back at the minutes of the day for like 10 years on Locust. But one of the things the engineer has repeatedly said that he would like to do at such time when the road is repaved was to stripe it and make the lanes as narrow as legally possible. And then he had suggested putting, better marking the bike path, which we tried to do a couple times in West Dundee, has not followed through on what we asked him to do. I think you had a conversation with West Dundee, Steve, and I know I went to the Village Hall and talked to him, but he said things like chevrons will help slow down traffic because people think they're going faster than they are. So the engineer has been looking at that for 10 years. It's just a matter of when we get the money to stripe it or repave it. In the past, he had not wanted to restripe it to repave it and waste the money, but since paving is 2 years out, we may want to think about that in the budget.
Yeah,
That is
that'd be a great idea. I was just concerned about because we went to the West Dundee meeting, the Village Hall, and they were saying, we brought the street up because I was under the notion that part of that street was Dundee, part of it wasn't, but clearly it's everything east is Dundee, the street itself is Sleepy Hollow and west.
Correct.
So I was just thinking that would be a great idea if we could get the path, the trail markers. That's really important. I've seen so many people on bikes going across there, and today I saw a guy just flying down that street. I mean, I'm not kidding, he must have been doing 60 miles an hour. And it's just, it makes me nervous. It's like, is this, eventually somebody's gonna get hit or something's gonna happen.
And I think that's what Trustee Gale was talking about, as far as getting additional barricades coming out of that bike path, so that when somebody comes out of the bike path, they have to turn
Yes.
left or right.
Right.
They can't just fire right across the road.
That's great.
Because I agree, because coming out of there, it's fairly blind.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Jeff Chrysler.
Hi, the only question that I have, I know that a few weeks back, you guys were talking about the park. And I wanted to know if there was any update on that. You said it was getting close to the end of its life. And you guys were gonna be looking at a grant for that to try to get the money to, make sure that we keep our playground there.
I'll report on that in my report coming up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harney. And,
I'm actually talking to Chief Carmel after this, so.
okay, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ann. All right, now we're back to the regular agenda. Trustee report, roads and parks. Mr. Harney, you have anything to say about the parks?
Yes, I'm meeting with the Park District in May to go ahead and apply or look at applying for an OSLID grant. There's also some other options outside the OSLID grant we're going to investigate. Eugene has already supplied me with that information, but it's in the works and moving forward. Second thing I have to report, with the roads, I'll add a little bit to that since Kyle called me today with an update on the regulatory signs. He's in the process of putting them up. The ones on Locust you can see. In fact, there's a picture of one in your packet. I think Trustee Nemec provided that picture, so a thank you there. And I would like to thank the Police Department and Public Works for coordinating their effort in the placement and erection of those signs in the village. And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Ed. Finance, George?
We started the budget tonight for the 2023 budget. We had our first Finance Committee meeting, and it's very enlightening. And for some of you that are here, I'm new to this position as of mid last year as an appointee and, overseeing the finance. And I think what I've said to everybody, I was in your shoes for many years. I've been a resident of this village for 30 years. And have attended meetings for probably many times before I even got involved with the village, and was in the same position as some of you, where I was very vocal and all that. And somebody in this room kept telling me, if you really want to make a difference, get involved. And I started getting involved, and I started learning real quick. And it's great to be in that position with the public to come in and say, we want to do this, we're going to do that. But all of that costs money. And we spent close to 3 hours tonight on the first budget meeting going over it. This is a small village. It's landlocked, and there's very little income in this village other than real estate taxes. People have to be aware of that. And that is 85%, if I'm correct. Eugene, would you say that? About 85% of our income?
Portion of it, yeah.
Personally, in this, maybe a little more. And the other is generated from other areas and, what limited sales that we have. And when individuals come in or groups come in and they say, we want to do this, we want to do that, we are not disagreeing with anybody, but that all takes money. It's monetary. And I spent my career and finished in senior management with a company and know P&Ls very well. And it's been very interesting that what this village has to work with, I don't think anybody could do any better. Anybody. And I'm finding that out as I delve into these into the ledgers and look at the journals and all that. And there's very limited funding. And if there were means of getting that, and take, for example, I think 2 years ago, we had a referendum on there, didn't we? And it was shot down. Every referendum they put out there over the last several years, or 10 years, almost all of them are shot down because individuals don't understand the financial workings of a village like this. And we don't have the assets that other villages do have. And I'm not being critical with that. That's just really the facts. And I bring that up because we've gone through this P&L tonight as a first blush, and we'll have several more meetings before we finally get the approval for the 2023 budget. But the one thing that I've said since I've been in this position, and I've talked to neighbors and people over the years, if you want to have a voice, get involved. There's openings. I'm not sure if we still have openings on the finance committee, but there's been openings on the planning and zoning. And what I say to people is get involved, come in, talk to Stefan, if there's opportunities to do it, then let's do it. And then educate yourself and find out really, what the workings of the village are and what we have in assets and capital funding to spend. And I think you'll learn very quickly that this village is operated very, very well, but almost on a shoestring. And there's not a lot left over at the end of the year, if any.
If I can add to that, a lot of our finances are tied to population. And because we lost 90 people, we lost a good amount of money, that comes in every year for the next 10 years.
So with that, more to come, and we'll be providing the budget, projections over the next couple of weeks to everybody, and hopefully it'll look very good. Anything else? Any questions?
Okay. Thank you, George. Police and Public Safety, Mr. Diatley.
Yes, several things. First, in your packet, you will see a quote to do the electrical work for the fuel tanks that we will put in. That quote, I would like to make a motion that we approve the quote of $5,400. No more than $5,400 to do all the electrical work, and then the process needed to put in the fuel tanks in Sleepy Hollow.
Second, Brian.
Moved by Diatley, seconded by Morano to approve the estimate from Austin Electric for the installation of the fuel tanks at a cost not to exceed $5,400. Any further comment, question, or discussion?
Time frame?
Well, now that I was finally able to get the estimate, I've got to coordinate between the tank supplier, the electrician, and Kyle. So I'm guessing you're going to become a project manager. now as well.
Schedule.
So we're looking by
And then
June, maybe June or so, or?
My last conversation with the tank supplier was, I'm ready to go as soon as we get this approved. And I said that to the electrician, I said, I don't want to delay it any longer with gas prices doing what they're doing. I'd like to get this on board as quickly as possible. I'm hoping by the end of May.
So that was my
So what
question
you
then.
need is an event coordinator, right?
Yes.
So if we do that, and then how many gallons is the tank?
It'll be a 500-gallon tank for diesel fuel and 1,000-gallon for regular gas.
And we're gonna fill that, right, from the village. So is that, would that be falling into, that'd be falling into the 2023 budget then, right? So we've identified, well, knowing that this is new, so to speak, and you guys may have discussed it, but that will be included in
It's
preparing.
included in the budget.
For
Yes,
us, yeah,
it's already
because we know
included.
it's-
We're looking at a fuel cost.
Right,
And
and then,
right now, we're estimating the fuel cost off of pump price.
right,
So that's, yeah, we
right.
hope is going to be higher than what the bulk price would be.
And then do we have an estimate on how many times we would be refilling it? You know,
Well, that's a part of the agreement. They will monitor it.
Right.
And they will come and fill it as needed. That's one of the things that caused this whole thing to start, was the old company was doing that, and then they quit,
right,
and they didn't tell us
right,
until the tank was empty.
right, right,
And we had to go to cases,
right.
and we found out the cases isn't open after 10 o'clock at night.
Chief, do we have do we know what do we have a rolling 12 months of our gallonage usage for the cars?
Yeah, I estimated it that, well, not necessarily per car, because it depends. The supervisor car, which is the car that I drive, and then Sergeant Wilson drives, we don't put as many miles on as let's say, a regular patrol car.
Yeah, but it'd be overall, whatever the total gallonage usage.
We are right in the area of about 600 gallons a month is what we're going through, somewhere in that area. So the 1,000-gallon tank will be more than adequate. We should have no issues with getting it filled, because this company that we're gonna enter the agreement with actually fills up Dundee Township as well. So they're out here all the time.
And you'll be on an auto refill, I guess. It'll be an automatic. That's how most of them work.
Yep.
And to answer your question, that'll, it'll probably be 75 to 90 days that they'll fill it up.
Sure, they'll come out more in the beginning to see how much fuel we're going through. I've already told them that in wintertime, Kyle's tank will need to be addressed more than, than it would in the summertime. So, yeah, they're aware of that.
Thank you.
All right, no further questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Diatley,
Aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
6 affirmative votes, no negative votes, the motion so passes.
Thank you all. Couple other quick call outs. Officer Schwartz received a compliment over the week, over a few weeks ago.
Last weekend.
And I would just like to let Chief talk about that for a moment. It shows you the quality of officers we have and the integrity they have in working with the village.
It was an elderly lady who had gotten in an accident on Randall Road. She had called AAA Motors. Anybody that's ever dealt with AAA, to get a car towed, it's an extended period of time that you're gonna wait for. It was gonna be about 2 hours. Officer Schwartz actually sat with the elderly lady and waited till the tow got there, got her on her way, and then actually called and checked on her afterwards to make sure she was okay. I got a call from her. She left a very lengthy message for me. And how pleased she was that we have an officer like that representing our organization. So I'm actually really happy to get those types of calls. And then I don't know if you want me to talk about the other incident. We had another incident where we had a mentally ill subject that was going through a crisis, potentially suicidal subject. And while we were there, the laws have changed a little bit. So we're limited in terms of how hands-on we can get with people now in terms of mental health issues. It's just the way it is. Which is one of the unforeseen consequences of passing some new laws. Well, this person tried to jump off the balcony while our officers were there. Our officer was the one that grabbed her before she jumped off the balcony. So that was Officer Chris Diori. So yeah, I'd like to recognize Officer Diori for doing what he did that day as well.
So great things. It's good to hear good things going on. So appreciate their work and your work as well, Chief. And just also, just to thank the chief, because we have officers all the time in ongoing training, and the chief's very good about keeping our officers in training. We have an officer right now just did a field sobriety refresher training course. Another one that's learning how to do the evidence room to contain all evidence that's collected in anything that we do and any investigations we have. So just to let you know that our officers are staying up to date, they're trained, and I want to give Chief credit for taking care of that and keeping them on the up and up and going forward. So thank you very much. That's all, President.
All right, thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chief.
If I can just add one quick thing. We went to great lengths to have our approval for our new squad car done early. And as Murphy would tend to raise his head sometimes, Ford used to give, and I've been doing this for order and fleet for squad cars for 15 years. Ford used to give you a drop dead date. They would say, if you're going to get orders in, it has to be in by May 1st. Otherwise, everything else nothing else is going to be accepted. They didn't give the dealers a drop dead date this year. They just cut off production and canceled everybody's orders. Ours was one of those orders that got canceled. So the good news, and as I said to President Pickett, I kind of try to find the rainbow in the manure field. The good news is we'll get a 2023 versus a 2022 squad car. And it really shouldn't delay us all that much. They'll open production on the 23s probably I'm guessing in June, and we're going to be first in line. So it shouldn't delay us much, but we got thrown a little bit of a curveball with that. So, and again, completely out of our dealers' control, completely out of our control. We tried to get out ahead of it, but we missed.
Thank you, Chief. Building and environment.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mark. Building and zoning, Mr. Moreno.
I don't know whether this should come up in new business or not, so if it does, we can add it to new business. But there's some issues with, in the zoning code, Title VI, some chapters that Ms. Detmer had talked to us about revising. And then she informed me that there was some decision made in the past that the board said it was going to be, the funds were going to be done next fiscal year. So I unfortunately was not able to reach her today to follow up with some questions, but I think if this has to go into new business, and I'll have maybe get her in here for the next meeting and discuss where we are. This affects a resident who thought we were approving an ordinance this evening and changing a setback on the septic systems in his yard so he can expand his deck. There's a discrepancy between King County and the village ordinances, which have been in place the year I graduated from high school, 1972. And so it's just something I think we need to address and look at, because if it means, and I recognize the fact that changing codes in the zoning involve expenses with attorneys and public hearings and the official process to change these codes. But in this case, it's something now that is delaying again, and I was unclear as to why it happened this way. So I don't know, President Pickett, if that should be go under new business for next week, our next meeting, or if I just add that to a report next week after speaking with Ms. Detmer to get more clarification.
I'd speak with Ms. Detmer and get more clarification, and then we can touch base before the agenda goes out the next meeting.
Okay.
And Anthony, if you need me to review any of the minutes during any prior time period, just let me know and I'll do that for you.
And Steve, I can speak to that in my report. So.
Oh, Joe. I talked to you so much today, Joe. I already left your report.
No, I'm done. So you're on.
Well, I want two things. First of all, Eugene sent out the letters as soon as we approved them. They went out very quickly. My understanding, unless President Pickett or Eugene has heard from somebody else, we had one resident call Eugene gave my email address. I said, feel free to share my cell phone in the future. I have not heard from that resident. So unless either one of you two gentlemen have heard anything, we have had no response. So going back to the question, Anthony, Barb had approached me several months ago. We could look back in the minutes. I don't remember what it was. That she had wanted to, it was the time when the resident was on Glen Oak adding water. She noticed some discrepancies in our water, sewer, and ordinances that needed to be updated. I had brought it to the board because there was an expense involved, and at that time it was determined that all that would be done updating the water and sewer code. It's not zoning, so it wouldn't need a public hearing. But we are way over budget in sewer and in water this year in legal expenses. Is that correct, Eugene? So at the time, the consensus of the board at that time was to budget for it next year and start working at it in May. And that's what Barb was told to do at that time.
Thank you.
So, I mean, that's, and Eugene, do you have the numbers in front of you there? How? Because we are at the point, my understanding was we're almost at the point of raising, is the appropriation, Steve, were we to run into problems, or the auditors? Or how far we are?
We'll be okay with that. As long as it's within the entire, we can do 10% within the entire budget.
How much do we have left for legal fees then for that?
There's no anything left.
It's, if you want to talk of how many times over,
Yes.
that's the discussion.
Okay, yeah, so.
You're in the hole, Joe.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So that was what Barb was told to stand down. So I believe she's going to have it ready to go if it's budgeted. So that we'll leave that up to the finance committee for next fiscal year.
Okay.
Anthony, does that answer your question?
It does. I think that, I don't know whether if the resident comes to the board and petitions us to do a variance or something, to delay the gentleman's project until, sometime late 2022 is somewhat concerning, but I do understand the process. So I'll check with Barb.
I believe
get some additional information and see if the resident cannot do obviously the additions and changes because it doesn't follow the current ordinances, then that's the answer. If we have opportunity to change and adjust these as you've talked already, and the monies that are required to do those things, they'll just go into, they have to be a budgeted item for the next fiscal year's budget, then that's the answer to that. The project has to be delayed till the ordinance is changed to correctly identify the responsibility and what can and cannot be done. So I understand, Joe. It just got caught in between because everything thought this was happening and now it's not. So that's all.
Yeah. No, it was the consensus of the board not to, move on. And Barb had offered to do it gratis, so she is not charging us anything. But so my understanding is she's still working on it, and she can have it ready to submit to the board if we get on the agenda for the first meeting of the next fiscal year. So that's pretty soon. It's not that far off.
And like I said, I'll follow up with her because there's some other things in this email that she mentioned as well. But I'll follow up and then report at the next meeting. So at least we have an understanding what's happening.
Okay, but as I said, it's not zoning; it's all under water and sewer, so it's all the changes we're making.
Well, it's zoning because it comes under chapter Title 6 of the zoning code, and that's where I got involved with it. So, and there's other chapters now that kind of been uncovered that need to be corrected as well. So that's the thing. Unfortunately, you would start reading one portion and you see things from another portion. Because let's face it, 1972 is a long time ago.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
I wish it wasn't. I'm old. Thank you.
Okey doke. Anything else, Joe?
No, I think that's enough. So,
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
You're only over $20,000 in engineering in water alone.
Yeah, that was right. I know. We're gonna get some of that back though, right, from the grant if we ever get it?
No, this is not the grant money.
Oh, great.
That was another 14,000.
Yeah. It's never ending.
No, never is. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Joe. Sorry for overlooking you.
No. I speak up. I'm good.
And I wouldn't have let it. Okay. Tony had your backside.
Thanks. I appreciate it. As you always do, Tony.
All right, old business. Any old business to come before the board? No old business come before the board. Is there any new business to come before the board?
Hey, Steve, can I just say, can you hear me okay? I said a couple thoughts here as we were at the
We
public.
hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I had to look back and realize how long it's been. I first joined the board in 1997 on and off, and then you shortly after me. You didn't have any breaks. You've been on a long time. And I know both of us have been sitting there and heard the same comments being made, about parks and we don't have the money and interested residents. As I was driving around today, I saw plenty of new faces and young people and moving in. And I'll also say that I've heard some of these discussions when I was just coming to visit back in 1981, so that's 40 some years. But I think it's maybe time that we have these people with some ideas and interest and vision for the village, that maybe we start talking about another referendum, because it seems in that, 40 years, it's always been, well, we're going to get this development, or we're going to get this building, or we're going to annex this or otherwise. And, we are what we are, and people love us for what we are. And I think for the amount of money that people would have to increase their taxes in a referendum, if we had people coming out saying, hey, if we pay another $200 a year, and I'm just coming up with a number, we can get our part. We can work on the dam at Lake Sharon. We can plant trees. We can maintain the path. We can, do studies on our roads to make them safer. And it's just a matter of getting the citizens together, saying what our vision is.
What's passing that referendum?
So that's what I'm saying, and but it can't just be us saying
Oh, no, twice in my lifetime on the board.
Excuse me, Anthony, can I finish, please?
Yeah, go ahead. But I agree with you, Joe.
Right,
The referendum's been voted down twice since I've been on the board. So I understand that residents get upset, but if nobody's willing to increase taxes, nothing's gonna get done, no matter who's sitting at this desk.
Anthony.
There's no money.
Anthony.
Yes,
I yield to Anthony so he can talk over me. I was just going to say is I see people sitting in the audience and some young, interested, exciting people are willing to come to boards, express their interest. I hate to keep on saying no. I think that if we can start working on a vision, get some of these people together, and get the citizens involved and saying, this is what we want, this is what it's costs, go to their neighbors and say, hey, vote for this, or we're going to get playground equipment. Vote for this, we're going to get signs. Vote, what the needs, we're going to get Lake Sharon fixed. I think that's the future of our village, and I hope we go that way. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Ovation, Joe.
Give me a call. I'm free.
New business to come before the board?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Moreno, seconded by Diatley to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Arnie,
Aye.
Mr. Dudley,
Aye.
Mr. Prano.
Aye.
6 affirmative votes, no negative votes. We are so adjourned. We'll see you on the
What for?
April? Yep.
Make sure you out of here.
Hours today.
How hard could it be?
Oh, I started in that yard too.
Don't be such a liar.
Beginning every year, you gotta look at it.
No, that's just.
And where's the money coming from?
But you gotta do it's single issue, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes single issue people get on the board and hilarity ensues.
But when that happens, you only get the right.
Yeah, but who doesn't take shots?
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
Now that you're approved, we had a meeting tonight. It was the first meeting, and we're gonna schedule another one within 2 weeks. I'll provide you what I provided everybody else last week, number of dates, and some dates of availability, but we're moving pretty fast right now to do it. So
The only time I'm gonna be out of town is April 2nd or 5th. So no, I won't be around. Tuesday, every other Tuesday, I volunteer.
okay.
So that's it. Otherwise, I'm open.
Were you military?
No, this is my dad was just in. So I
was active for 3 years and reserves for 12, so 15 years.
Yeah. So I started doing it back in February when I got promoted. So I had to take some time and I started back again. And so it's
It's nice. I mean, I do some work, I do some volunteer work for the VA.
okay. And my dad is a VA person down in Florida, so I'll go with him sometimes to the VA and do some volunteer work when I visit with him and stuff. So it's,
I do that, I like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got a hearing disability for time and service too, so I use the VA, they cover, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they do.
With that, but because of Vietnam, I mean, but I don't even use the VA help, I figure I'd use that, but somebody that needs it more than me.
yes, yeah, I know, yeah.
I use it for my hearing and that's all I want.
My dad does it for his hearing. He does the VA office, is right back or VA building.
What part of Florida?
He's in north of Orlando. He's crazy.
Okay. The villages?
The villages.
Yep.
Yeah, the
Know 'em
crazy
well, I know 'em
villages.
well, yep. Does he go around with loopers on his golf cart?
He's so funny. Yeah, he likes it there, He and my stepmom went down there about 4 years ago, so they like it there. But yeah, so whatever.
What's your email?
It's Cosmos,
At what?
Oh, no. Cosmo 1206. At
1206. Wow, that's at hotmail.com. I know. I
And
had
I
one
can't
of those
change it
years
because
ago.
everything is like.
COSMO 1206 at hotmail. Okay. Telephone. Okay, you get an email from me tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll get it from, it'll be from Village Clerk. Send it either tomorrow or it'll be Wednesday at the latest. And then I'll send you the same thing I sent Catherine and Eugene and give you the information, I mean, the dates and all that. Just fill in.
And I had talked to Eugene about doing data entry
Sure. Yeah. Hey, thank you. I mean, I can't say thank you enough for the volunteering. That's why I don't want to get into it, but our streets are in such dire rates of living and all that. And I've got a friend over in the development right off of 72, where Lake Marion or whatever that is, and they're looking at their lake back there. They had it done several years ago. Cost them almost $750,000.
I don't know if I need it.
The girls said they've got it on their hand, so, yeah, I repeatedly asked them, and they said that they've got it. I'm looking for something I have in my back, yeah.
Well, I know Halifax is-
For the year, and it's not, it's, yeah, it's half a budget. Not realizing that it doesn't. It offers the school. If we had the school now, we would be flush. Yeah.
That the developer will have to put up.
I know,
for like
but yeah, I
5
do
or 8
think,
years.
If I could find something.
well, I told
Protect that site where
I started volunteering.
like build up all that because somebody asked for it.
Good, appreciate that.
No problem. Okay. I'll talk to you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be in touch.
Okay. all
Thank
right,
you
sounds
again.
good. All right. Take care.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They did. And, but they, I mean, they got, I think one or two of the people that live in that development are lawyers. They're working with it too. But they're also saying that, oh,
Rightfully on the ready.
On a Sunday, in the residential.